The most fashionable garments are the personas that we wear tailored by tradition and made with the finest fabrics of formality. Behind closed doors, where secrets lie, we are stripped down naked and leave ourselves bare with the intimacy of truth. Who we truly are is only acceptable behind closed doors.
Chapter 2.
Leif nervously settled down into his seat next to Mia, facing Hemlock and the Crimson twins, Bitor and Nomerous. The rhythmic clicking of the carriage wheels vibrated through the wooden frame as it continued through the bustling streets of Potentia. Each of them sat quietly, Mia gazing out the window, Hemlock absorbed in his book, and Bitor and Nomerous exchanging glances. "So, Leify," one of the twins said, breaking the uncomfortable silence, "is your father really a hero of the Red Water?" Yes, he is, Lord Bitor," Leif replied, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. "You don't have to call me Lord, Leify," the boy said, laughing. "It's just us in here, so there's no need to be so formal. Also, I am Nomerous, and he is Bitor." Hemlock grinned widely while Mia chuckled, as if there was an inside joke that Leif wasn't privy to. "No, you are Bitor, and he is Nomerous," Leif corrected, causing Hemlock to close his book and Mia to turn in her seat. "How can you tell, my friend?" Hemlock asked, puzzled. "I've been trying for days to guess which is which. I even threw one of them into a mud puddle so I would know who is who, but the other jumped in right after him." Mia laughed. "I even drew a line on one of their hands while they slept, only to find the exact same mark on both of their hands. Please, Leif, tell us how you know." "Well, Leif said, feeling a little overwhelmed by the attention, especially from Mia. "Bitor has a light scar on his forehead, and Nomerous doesn't. Maybe it's from a red thorn." Mia and Hemlock both leaned in to look closely at the twins. "I think I can see it," Mia said with a smile. "Yeah, he does have a scar on his forehead." "So what if one of us has a scar?" the brothers said in unison. "The question is, who has the scar, Bitor or Nomerous?" Hemlock laughed. "They have you there, my friend." "No, they do not, Hemlock," Leif replied confidently, smiling up at the large boy. "They told me who they were when we first met." "We could have been lying," the twins piped up, still speaking in unison. "Sorry, but you were not lying to me at the time." Leif leaned forward in his seat. Calling for an ally's aid, then lying to that ally during a formal greeting, is a sign of grave disrespect. Alliances are then broken, followed by war between both houses. Also, if Lord Crimson is as strict with his servants in matters of addressing other houses, I can only imagine that he would be far stricter with his sons. "You win." Bitor sighs and reaches into his pocket and pulls a small green stone and hands it to his brother. "I'll get it back from you soon, brother." "Want to make another bet then, brother?" Nomerous said as he slipped the stone into his pocket. "Okay." Bitor leaned in and whispered into Nomerous's ear. "Oh, that is a fun one." Nomerous smiled as he looked at Leif. "I'll take that bet, brother." Hemlock, Mia and Leif looked back and forth between one another, each with a worried look on their faces. "So, Leif, do you have any brothers or sisters?" Mia asked as she turned her attention from the mischievous twins to Leif. "No, I am my mother and father's only child," he replied, a touch of loneliness in his voice. "Oh, what about the older boy who got out of your carriage with the other boy? Is he not of House Lewind?" Mia asked, genuinely curious. "Oh, that is my cousin Casimir on my father's side," Leif explained. "My father took him and his mother in after my uncle died fighting orcs on Pivo Island. He then made him a member of our house, but he is not my brother." "That is very kind of your father." Mia adjusted her dress as she settled back in her seat. "The two of you must be very close." "We were in the beginning," Leif sighed. "I don't wish to speak ill of family, but he changed over the seasons, and the less I see of him, the better." "I see." Mia then looked to Hemlock. "What about you, Hemlock? Do you have any brothers or sisters?" "That I do, Miss Mia." Hemlock stretched his arms out, then placed both hands behind his head and leaned back in his seat. "I have 13 brothers and sisters, and if Onan is kind, my 7th mother will make it 14 next summer." Leif, Mia and the twins all looked at Hemlock, confused by what he said. "You have 7 mothers?" Leif asked, thinking he might have misheard his friend. "No, no, my friend, that would be silly." Hemlock let out a rolling laugh reflective of his good nature. "I have 9 mothers. I know it is a bit shameful, but being a shiplord, my father doesn't have time for more than that." "What about the two of you?" Mia asked the twins kindly, her sweet, soft voice filled with curiosity. "We have each other," they replied in unison. Bitor then poked Nomerous in his side, but we enjoy each other's company very much. Leif then looked to Mia and started to ask something, but was cut off. What is it like living on the red water? Does the river really glow red in the moonlight? Or is that just a fairy tale? Yes, it does, Leif answered, but it only glows during full moon nights. Leif thought back to the lovely red glow of the river, and for just a moment yearned to be back home. But he was here now, and as much as he missed his home, he did not want to be anywhere other than here with his new friends. It's very true, Miss Mia, Hemlock said. I've seen this water before, it's very lovely. My father would take me on his ship some seasons when he did trade in the red water. Oh, wow, I wish I could see the glow, Mia smiled longingly. My mother has told me about it, but I have never been. Smiling, Leif said, Then you'll have to come see it next summer. All four of you, I'd love to host each of you. Oh, that sounds like a lovely idea. Mia clapped her hands and smiled. I have always wanted to see the glow of the red water. What about you three? Would you join us? Mia looked across to Hemlock and the twins. Ha! I would enjoy seeing the glowing red river again, Hemlock said, sitting up in his seat. Oh, that would be fun, the twins said in unison. A feeling of warm happiness filled Leif as he imagined the five of them standing on the banks of the red water, while Thomas played his lute and sang his songs. He could go fishing with Hemlock, play pranks with the twins on Casimir, and show Mia his secret place in the forest where he went to be alone. Leif smiles deeply as he sees the joy on each of their faces. Leif, thank you. Mia's eyes dampened just a bit as the tone of her voice filled with excitement. The rhythmic clicking of the carriage wheels gradually becomes softer as Henry brings the carriage to a stop in the middle of a bridge. He then lightly taps the wooden panel just behind his head. Lordlings, he shouts, you all might want to take a look outside. What is it, Henry? Is something wrong? Leif shouts back as each of the children look to him, confused. No, lad, but you'll want to have a look, Henry shouts back in a kind voice. You'll don't want to miss it. Miss what, Henry? Leif stood up and pulled back the silk curtains, revealing the awe-inspiring and majestic view of Potentia. The clear blue water of the city's inner river glittered under the noonday sun. The banks of the river were lined with majestic homes of the wealthy, each having their own unique and elegant look. A cool breeze blew in from the river, carrying the smell of fresh grass. Their eyes followed along the waters and into the clear blue sky as the sun reached its highest peak. That is when they saw it, the great tower of the Muggies. It stood high into the sky, looking like a giant sparkling crystal. The children were in awe as the sun reached its noonday height. The colours red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet streamed out of the tower, down onto the water, and passed over the bridge. Wow, the twins gasped as the colours of the rainbow passed over them. Hemlock stood there speechless, his mouth hanging open at the sight. It's so beautiful. Mia leaned her head onto Leif's shoulder and whispered, I don't have any brothers or sisters either. Thank you, Leif. I'm so glad that I can now call you my friend. Leif felt Mia's soft pinky finger take hold of his own as his heart started to race again. Yeah, me too. Nomerous let out a conceding sigh and slowly handed the green stone back to his brother. You win.
Lady Lalana Senkrad, the youngest daughter of House Senkrad, sat across from her sister, Lady Elizabeth Senkrad, as she watched the dazzling array of colours wash over her carriage. She tucked her long golden hair behind her uncapped ears, her sky-blue eye wide and full of wonder at the sight. Look, Lizzie, hurry, you are missing it, Lalana shouts to her sister. Lalana, I don't understand how you can be excited, Elizabeth sighed as she turned the pages of her book. We have both seen the tower light show dozens of times on our trips here with Father. I know, Lizzie, but this is the first time it's been just the two of us. Lalana made a pouty face as she looked up at her sister. Please watch them with me. Fine. Elizabeth rolled her eyes, then gave her little sister a smile and moved next to her. The two of them watched as the last of the rays passed over and the world returned to its normal colours. Thank you, Lizzie, Lalana said as she rested her head on Elizabeth's shoulder. Am I really going to be a magus one day? Father thinks you will. Elizabeth brushed her hand through Lalana's hair. He said you could feel the shift, so it must be true, I guess. The shift, Lalana thought back to the first time she had ever felt it. a staticky feeling that prickled at the skin and the hairs on the back of her neck as reality suddenly shifted in the presence of magic. She had only been 6 springs of age, playing with her dolls on the floor of her father's study. Lord Magus Senkrad had only used a light touch of magic to illuminate a small lightstone on his desk. The pain Lalana had felt from the shift was so great she cried for days in her room. Her father said he had never seen anyone so sensitive to it, especially at her young, tender age. "But what if I don't want to be a magus, Lizzie?" Lalana said in a sad tone as she started play with the ends Elizabeth's auburn hair. "Oh, and what is it that you want to be, little sister?" Elizabeth said as the carriage started to move again. "I don't know, maybe a painter or a gardener," Lalana said, watching as the carriage began to pass by buildings and the people of the city. "Lalana, those are wonderful things, but keep in mind there are some things in the world that are what they are." Elizabeth sighed as she held her innocent sister in her arms. "You can't plant a rose garden and expect to get carrots. In turn, you can't plant carrots and expect to get roses." Lalana looked up into Elizabeth's emerald green eyes. "But we can do that with magic." Elizabeth smiled. "You could, but you would have to become a magus to do that." "Also," she continued, as Lalana began to sit up in her seat, "even if you turned the carrot into a rose, the rose will have always been a carrot. We can change some things in life, but we must accept the things that can't be changed." "I guess you're right, Lizzie. I hope that I'm as smart as you when I'm your age," Lalana said with a smug smile. "I'm only 1 summer older than you, Lalana." Elizabeth rolled her eyes and then tucked her hair behind her capped ears. "You're wearing your caps again," Lalana said as she looked at the golden jewellery adorning her sister's ears. "I thought Papa had chosen you a new suitor." "He had." Elizabeth's tone was annoyed as she huffed out a breath. "But I stabbed him in the knee with my sword before we left for the academy." Lalana gasped. "Lizzie, why did you do that?" "He tried to kiss me." Elizabeth made a disgusted face. "The first boy I kiss will be who I damn well please. Father will not choose that for me." "Carrots and roses, big sister," Lalana giggled. "Oh, eat your rose and stick your carrots in a vase, Lalana." Elizabeth's face turned bright red as she snapped at her sister. This was the 5th suitor Magus Senkrad had chosen for his eldest daughter. Elizabeth was not defiant towards her father, as one might think. In fact, she was quite dutiful in her father's requests. However, she defied him when it came to Lalana and matters of the heart. The only time Elizabeth had ever lashed out at their father was when he had chosen Lalana's suitor, Sentinel Christoph, a man 24 winters of age, twice that of Lalana's age. "We should start preparing ourselves," Elizabeth began, putting away her books and other personal belongings. "We must look presentable once we have arrived at the gates." "All right, Lizzie." Lalana started to put away her own belongings. "Lalana," Elizabeth's face was one of concern. "Neither of us has been to the academy. Despite my protests to Father that you were too young, as members of House Senkrad, we are obligated to uphold our family's respect, dignity, and honour. While on the grounds you cannot refer to me as Lizzie or Big Sister, you may call me Elizabeth or Sister, Lalana." Lalana gave her sister a disappointed smile and nodded her head. "I understand, Elizabeth." She adjusted herself in her seat to be more ladylike. "But may I still call you Lizzie until we get there? Oh, I mean, until we arrive." Elizabeth smiled. "We're not on the grounds of the academy just yet, little sister."
House Lewin's carriage was one of many in a long line of others that came to a gentle stop at the gates of Montos. Children of many houses, and others not of noble blood, moved hastily in front of the smooth white marble walls that surrounded the academy. Laughter and excitement permeated the crowd as many gathered into small groups. A golden-furred dog barked happily as his owner, a short black-haired boy, rubbed the top of its head, then jumped back and forth, repeating the play. 13 sentinels in their immaculate armour stood at attention next to the gates, barring entrance to all until the appropriate moment. Each of the children stepped from the carriage. First, the twins, followed by Hemlock and Leif. With his hand outreached, Leif helped Mia down onto the landing. "Now, lad," Henry whispered as he placed his hand on Leif's shoulder. "Mind yourself while in these walls. You are growing into a man, and there are going to be things that are expected of you. Don't get lost in the sky and walk off a cliff." Henry looked at each of the other children. "That goes for the rest of you. Lord Leif is a good judge of character, and if he thinks you are being his friend, then I expect you each to watch out for one another." "Thank you, Henry." Leif wrapped his arms around the old driver and gave him a caring hug. "I am going to miss you. Lad, you can't be seen hugging a servant." Henry patted Leif warmly on the back as a tear nearly left his eye. "You're a lord. Things like that ain't right. Now go on, the lot of you. I got work to do. I'll be dropping your things off at your rooms." With a tear nearly leaving his own eye, Leif pulled back and looked up at Henry. "Thank you, servant. That will be all." "Good, sir." Henry nodded to Leif and then returned to his driver's seat. Leif watched as the horses pulled the Lowen carriage away along with Henry. "Come on, Leif, let's get going." Mia takes Leif by the hand. "Yes, we have many things to do, my new friend." Hemlock pats Leif on the back. "This is not a day to be sad. It is a time for wonder and the unknown. You will see him again." "Yeah, Leify," the twins say once again in unison. "We're glad that our carriage broke a wheel. Now the 5 of us can be friends." "You're right, let's go," Leif said as the group walked off towards the large iron gates led by Bitor and Nomerous, the two of them laughing. "Pardon me, but we are Lord Bitor and Nomerous of House Crimson, and we are here to enter the gates of the academy," Bitor said as he looked up to the sentinel. The man looked down at Bitor with a look of disdain. "You will refer to me as Sir or Sentinel, Lordling, and we know who you and your brother are. Do not think that your title holds any sway over us while in the Hall of Montos. They mean nothing here." His voice cold as winter. "You and your companions shall wait until the gates are open like everyone else." Bitor and Nomerous both took a step back as they look up, wide-eyed, to the imposing man. "Yes, sir," a touch of fear in their words. "Pardon my companions, good sentinel," Leif said in a respectful tone. "The sons of House Crimson are unaccustomed to speaking with sentinels and overwhelmed with excitement and respect for your stations. I, Lord Leif Lowend, of House Lowend, would like to apologise on their behalf." The sentinel then tapped the tip of his spear to his chest and nodded to Leif. "Your father is highly honoured amongst our ranks, Lord Lowend. We take pride in the fact that his son now walks these hallowed halls. Onan has blessed us. But while we take pride, understand that you will be shown no special treatment." "I deserve nor expect any such treatment," Leif's tone respectful. "And any such treatment would do me a disservice and dishonour my father's legacy. But might I ask when my companions and I might be granted entrance?" The sentinel once again nodded his head. "It will not be much longer, Lord Lowend." "Thank you, Sir Sentinel." Leif nodded back to the man one last time before turning back to his friends. "I thought he was going to crush me under his boot, Leify," Bitor said, his face still pale. "Ha, you two are very lucky," Hemlock laughed. "You must love kicking beehives." "We only ever did that once," the twins said mischievously. "We had to stay in bed for a few days." Mia laughed. "The two of you must be a handful for your poor mother." "You need to be more careful when speaking to sentinels," Leif smiled. "They take their honour and tradition very seriously. It's not wise to try and play pranks." "We'll remember that." Bitor reached into his pocket and took out the green stone, then handed it to Nomerous. "Here you go, brother. You won that one." "What is it with the green stone?" Leif asked as Nomerous held the stone up in the sunlight. "Oh, it is a stone we both found while playing in our mother's garden," Nomerous said, still holding it up in the light. "There was only one of them, and both of us liked it very much," Bitor explained. "Instead of fighting over it, we just have bets to see who gets to keep it." "How long have you two been making these bets?" Mia asked as she looked closer at the stone. "Since we were 4 winters old," Bitor and Nomerous both said. "You have been passing the rock back and forth for 9 winters. Hemlock smiled as he leaned in closer as well. "I like the two of you very much. You're so dedicated, not just to the rock but also to one another." Nomerous slipped the stone into his pocket. "So what do we do now?" "I guess we wait," Leif said, walking over to a small shade tree, one of many along the outer walls. "It's not like we have much of a choice." "We're going to look for something to eat." the twins said as Leif and Hemlock took a seat on one of the large stones under the tree. We think we saw a food cart that sells sweet cakes. Oh, I would love a sweet cake, Mia said as she stepped towards the brothers. Leif, Hemlock, do either of you want one? My treat. No, Miss Mia, but thank you, Hemlock said, lying down on the grass beneath the tree. I'm going to take a nap for a little while. It's very hard to sleep inside a carriage, so I could use a little rest. What about you, Leif? Mia smiled and brushed her hair over her right ear once again. No, thank you. I am going to wait here just in case they open the gate soon. We don't want to get stuck in line and wait longer than we must. Leif blushed slightly as he noticed her ear cap. Mia smiled. Okay, but I'll still bring the two of you something back, then you can have it later. She then rushed off, trying to catch up to the twins. Wait for me. I think Miss Mia is dancing with flowers for you, my new friend, Hemlock said, as he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Dancing with flowers, Leif said, confused by Hemlock's words as he watched Mia walk off into the crowd. What do you mean? Hemlock did not answer as he let out a soft snore. I guess you really were tired, my new friend, Leif laughed as he thought of Mia's warm, blushing smile and soft eyes. He had never felt like this before seeing or meeting a girl. His heart raced in his chest, and his hands felt a bit clammy. He had only just met her that morning, but now he just wanted to be next to her. Oh, this is odd and confusing, he whispered to himself aloud. What is so odd and confusing? A soft, kind voice said from behind Leif, causing him to jump and drawing him out of his thoughts. Letting out a small yelp, he turned to meet the sky-blue eyes of a girl younger than himself. Onan, you scared me. The girl gave Leif an innocent smile. Oh, my apologies, I did not intend to give you a fright, but I wanted to ask you if you have seen my sister. She is a tall, red-headed girl wearing the colours of red and white. She and I got a little lost in the crowd, and I can't seem to find her. Leif's eyes widened. You're Lalana Syncrad, the youngest daughter of House Syncrad. You know of my family? Lalana smiled. Who hasn't heard of House Syncrad? Leif felt a little overwhelmed. House Syncrad was one of the 3 major houses, which could show a bloodline relationship back to the early days of the Empire. While their house did not have many notable sentinels, they made up for it with the sheer number of powerful mages. House Syncrad had also been one of the dissenting voices against House Lowen's rise to nobility. Lord Magus Syncrad single-handedly destroyed the Orc stronghold on Pivo Island and drove off the elves from there. That is my papa, Lalana said in a humble tone. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Lalana, Leif smiled. I take it you are Lord Leif Lewind. It is a pleasure to meet you as well. She smiled back at Leif as he stood up from his seat. Lalana. A beautiful but angry voice called out to the innocent golden-haired girl, causing both Leif and her to jump. Turning, Leif met with the wrathful green eyes of Elizabeth Syncrad. Her beauty was like that of a raging forest fire in the night. Lovely at a distance, but dangerous and destructive the closer you get to it. Hanging at her side was a sheathed sword, with an elegant hilt made of silver and gold that was gripped by her delicate hand. Greetings, Lady Syncrad. I am Lord... I know who you are, Lord Lowind, Elizabeth snapped at Leif, causing him to feel a burst of anger at this petulant girl's tone. Now do not speak to my sister or myself, unless you're spoken to, Lowborn. Lowborn, I am of noble blood just as you, Lady Elizabeth. Leif shouted back as his words became just as heated as her own. I show you nor your sister any disrespect, but I will not allow you to disrespect my house. Get away from my sister, Lowborn, or your dirty bloodline will end with you. Her tone no longer one of wrath, but of cold indifference and determination, as she took Lalana by her hand and walked away. Suddenly, Lalana, Elizabeth and Leif came to a standstill as Hemlock sat up from his sleep. Each of them felt the staticky prickle of the shift. A powerful moment had just taken place as Lalana looked up to her sister with worried eyes. Something has changed, Lizzie. Lalana shook as the uncomfortable feeling washed over them. Elizabeth looked down at her sister, trying to hide the concern in her own eyes. I am sure everything is fine, Lalana. Let's go find a quiet place away from everyone. Did you feel that too, Hemlock? Leif looked up to the large boy, then out into the crowd of other children, most with the same look on their faces. I did, Leif. Hemlock's face was like that of a granite statue. They then turned their attention to the pleading of the golden-furred dog and its owner, as 5 much larger boys surrounded them. 3 of the boys threw rocks, while the others swung sticks like clubs, striking the poor animal. The black-haired boy tried his best to jump between each strike, taking the blows to save his dog. No, Gareth, please don't hurt her. The boy cried out with tears in his eyes. Just leave us alone, please. Shut it, Horling, the largest of the boys shouted, and tried to pull the black-haired boy away from the dog. I told you if you didn't shut that fucking mutt up, I would kill it. Leif and Hemlock looked at one another, then back at the boys. Without a word between them, they charged at the group, a sense of determination in their hearts, on a path to protect another from harm. The two friends ran. The number of boys did not matter. How could they turn a blind eye? They were here to become protectors, guardians, sentinels. Leave him alone, Leif shouted as he ran up behind Gareth. The black-haired boy pulled free and returned to covering his golden-furred dog. And what are you going to do about it? Gareth turned to face the person foolish enough to interfere with his entertainment, only to be met with Leif's balled-up fist in his nose. Leif felt the crunch of bone against his knuckles, then watched as Gareth fell to the ground as blood started to flow out covering his face. Looking down at the boy, Leif narrowed his icy blue eyes, as the adrenaline he felt caused him to start to shake. Gareth's friends turned to attack Leif but were met with the large presence of the Southern Isles boy. Would you like to dance with me? Hemlock's voice lacked any of his joyful demeanour. He stood like a mountain before the breeze. Leave. The boys dropped the rocks and sticks, then quickly rushed back off into the crowd, abandoning their would-be leader. I'll get you for this and that little Horling, Gareth said as he tried to get to his feet. No, you won't, Gareth. Leif leaned down and looked into the much larger boy's eyes. If I see you harm another person again, I'll hurt you again and again. You wouldn't, Gareth stuttered as Leif grabbed him by his bloodied tunic. Oh, I would, Gareth, and I would enjoy it, Leif said coldly. And if I don't get to you first, then my friend will. Hemlock looked down at Gareth just as coldly. With nothing else to say, Gareth crawled away, then got back to his feet and ran off into the crowd. Wow, he runs very fast, Hemlock smiled as he patted Leif on the back. Yeah, but I think he remembered that the stag is more afraid of the bear behind the hunter. Leif started laughing as they turned back to the boy and his dog. Are you two okay? Leif offered his hand down to the boy, then helped him to his feet. I am Leif, and this is my friend Hemlock. Yes, I think we are fine. The boy's voice was a bit shy and squeaky, as his ghostly grey eyes met with both Leif and Hemlock. My name is Mouse. It's very nice to meet you, little Mouse. Hemlock's voice boomed as his joyful tone returned, causing Mouse to jump back from the large boy. Then in a much softer tone, but still filled with joy, I think we're going to be good friends. Mouse smiled up to Hemlock as Leif placed his hand kindly on the dog's head. It's nice to meet you as well, Mr. Hemlock. What is her name? Leif looked over the animal for any injuries as he took a wet lick to the face. Her name is Cat, Mr. Leif. Mouse leaned down next to Cat and hugged her tightly as a tear ran down his face. Cat is a funny name for a dog. Hemlock kneeled and ran his hand over her golden fur. I know, but she seems to like it, and that is what matters. Suddenly Cat's ears fell back as she started to growl and bark angrily. What is it, girl? Mouse, did you feel something earlier? Leif looked back out over the crowd as a tension filled the air. No, I can't say that I did, Mr. Leif, Mouse said, looking around and feeling the same odd tension as Leif and Hemlock. But something doesn't feel right now. It's like everyone is angry with one another. Leif observed the sea of faces around them. The happy smiles and laughter had been replaced with seething anger, as if a pot were about to boil over. Even Hemlock looked like he was ready for a fight. Leif balled up his fist and started to swing, but he felt a soft hand rest on his shoulder. How dare you lay your hands on me? I am Lord Leif Lowind of House Lowind. I will become the greatest sentinel the Empire has ever seen. Once I'm done with you, I will find that Syncred bitch and put her down as well. Leif's words were full of anger and spite. He did not care who this fool was. They were going to die. I think this is the Heart's Wrath, Mr. Leif, Mouse said, looking innocently up at Leif. It's a spell designed to turn large groups of enemies against one another. You and Mr. Hemlock said you felt the shift earlier. If that is so, it must be the spell. Leif slowly lowered his fist, questioning if these were truly his own feelings. He did not truly want to harm anyone. The anger felt like a weight around his neck, held there by the most delicate of strings. All he needed to do was gently pull at it. Are you sure, Mouse? Leif asked, feeling the world tilt a bit as the weight of this unnatural anger fell from him. Thank you. Yes, I am very sure. I have studied the different types of spells that are public, and those that are not so public that mages can craft, Mouse said, smiling with a look of concern. This is definitely Heart's Wrath, but I don't see how someone would use this spell. Why is that? Leif asked as the crowd went silent. Because it is uncontrollable and unpredictable. The spell has a habit of spilling back over onto the caster's own allies, Mouse explained in a worried tone. Whoever casts this does not care what happens, even to themselves. No one may even know what the spark was that started the fire, but everyone knows what happened next. Screams of rage played like a cacophony as the crowds of children erupted into a bloodthirsty battle. Leif watched as Gareth, with his still-bloodied nose, began attacking his own accomplices. Children who had been singing and dancing were now trying to kill one another. Hemlock, Leif shouted over the screams, "Are you yourself?" A deep dread fell onto Leif as Hemlock turned to face him. "Yes, I am fine, but I must say I would like nothing more than to bash both your faces in. But I know this anger is not my own, my friends." "We have to find Mai and the twins," Leif said, starting to panic. "They are going to be in trouble in this madness." "Then let us go." Hemlock pushed through the crowd of furiously fighting children, like a ship cutting through rough waters, with Leif and Mouse following closely behind. "They are so mad," he said as he took a few sticks to the face. "Mai!" Leif shouted, worried that he might not find them. "Hemlock, I see Mai over there next to that tree." "Yes, I see her and the twins," Hemlock shouted back. "The brothers are fighting one another. Leif, go around me and get to them." Seeing an opening, Leif darted out from behind his large friend, pushing a boy and a girl out of his way, with Mouse following closely behind him. "Mai, are you okay?" he asked as he reached the base of the tree. With tears flowing from her eyes, Mai replied, "Oh, Leif, what is happening? They just started fighting." Looking up, Leif could see the brothers aggressively confronting each other. "Bitor, Nomerous, stop, you're not yourselves." But his words could not reach them. "I have to stop them," he said. Seeing both brothers bloodied but neither backing down, it was impossible to tell them apart. "It's mine, I want it, now fucking give it to me," they shouted in unison at one another as they rolled around on the ground. Leif jumped to his feet and raced toward the fight as he saw one of them pick up a large stone. "Stop, don't do it!" Suddenly Leif was brought to the ground as two boys tackled him. Leif watched in horror, while Mai's screams were the only thing he could hear, as the stone came down with a sickening crunching sound. The shift happened quickly and sent a shockwave out to those who could feel it. The fighting stopped, and a look of confusion, then sorrow, fell onto everyone. Leif pushed himself off the ground as Mai, Hemlock and Mouse stepped up beside him. The three of them looked down at their friend. "Brother?" The boy shook the body slowly. "Wake up, I got you a sweet cake. Here, you can have the stone for now, but I'll get it back from you later. Just tell me the bet." Leif slowly stepped towards the boy. "Nomerous." "Leify, Bitor won't wake up," Nomerous sobbed, tears mixing with the blood on his brother's face. Leif kneeled next to Nomerous and wrapped his arms around the boy. "He's gone, my friend," he whispered as Nomerous placed the green stone into his brother's hand. "Leify!" Nomerous cried out as Mai and Hemlock wrapped their arms around him as well. "What have I done?"